Hey there guys, John here, and thanks for checking out this special user-submitted question video here on the channel. You see, every day on the John Campea Show, in the second half of the show, we take live questions, but every once in a while, somebody sends in like a really big tip, like $50 or more. And when they do, I like to honor that by not only answering the question on the show, but also answering it in its own standalone video. So let's get right to it. And this one comes to us from Cody John Walker, who writes, I admit, bad first question for me on Endgame to the Rise of Skywalker. Thanks for answering still. Number one movie talk show I listen to is yours. No problem, Cody. I remember that question. It was no problem that you asked, man. All right. But this question is, do you have a movie or movies that you watch at least once a year, besides Star Wars or the MCU type films, that you feel is one of the best? Mine is Lincoln. And oh man, Lincoln is a good one for sure. Yeah, obviously, if you're going to ask me about movies I watch every year, clearly the Star Wars movies are ones that come to mind. Of course, I'm big into comic book movies as well. But outside of that, the first one I'm going to say might be cheating because it kind of falls into what you're suggesting, but is the Lord of the Rings movies. I try to watch those at least once a year. Not necessarily the Hobbit movies, although I have rewatched those, but I try to around once a year sit down and rewatch the Lord of the Rings films, although it's been a little bit since I've watched them the last time, but that's one that I try. But if we're going to move outside of like the geeky genre of Star Wars and Marvel and DC, I suppose we've got to move outside of Lord of the Rings. There are a couple that to me are absolutely required that I need to watch every year. And two of them are absolutely near the top. You're not going to be surprised to hear me say what they are. The Godfather 1 and The Godfather 2. These are simply two of the greatest motion pictures and most influential motion pictures ever made. One of the neat things about the first Godfather film is this. I have on several occasions had the wonderful privilege of watching The Godfather with somebody who has never seen it before. I've been able to do that a couple of times. And one of the most amazing things about that experience is seeing the light bulb go off in their heads when they realized, oh my God, I am recognizing things in almost every movie I've ever seen have come from this movie, but they'd never seen it before. Now they're watching. It's like, oh my God, now I know where this movie got this scene from. And now I know where this movie got this influence from. And it's all comes from watching The Godfather. The Godfather and Star Wars, I'm not necessarily saying they're two of the best films ever made, although they are two of the best films ever made, but they are amongst the most influential films ever. The Star Wars movies inspired an entire multiple generations of filmmakers and directors to get involved in the movies in the first place. The Godfather changed the way people looked at stories and how you could tell stories. And again, it is simply one of the most influential. And you got these two films where amongst a lot of film fans, not all of them, I'm saying a lot of film fans, the debate is which one is the greatest film ever made? Is Godfather 1 the greatest film ever made? Or is Godfather 2 the greatest film ever made? Nobody ever argues for The Godfather 3 as being the best ever made. But anyway, that's a discussion for another time. But so for me, once I got to go back to all the time, every year, I've got to watch The Godfathers 1 and 2 every single year. I also try to watch Ben-Hur every year when I can. So Ben-Hur is probably one I've kept up on. Spartacus with Kirk Douglas is one I try to watch every year as well. And then absolutely, another one I watch every single year, probably multiple times a year, is Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank Redemption is a top 5 greatest all-time movie to me. So that's another one I go back to. And again, it's got to have those elements of a timeless feel, completely influential, changes the way you see the movies. These are all films that have done that for me, and that's why I kind of go back to them all the time. But we all are going to have different lists of those, right? I want to know from you guys, what are movies outside of Star Wars or the geeky genre ones? What are movies that you like to go back to at least once a year? Because you've got to just revisit them again. I want to know what your films look like. Jump on down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys, that'll do it for this little video. Thanks so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.